Today we do have a guest speaker talking to us about missions and what missions he's a part of. Jesse Chang, he works with Catalyst. They're a group that works in the local schools, public schools, reaching out to families and the students in those local schools that need help. And so we'll allow him to tell us what he does here in Southern California and about himself. Yeah, so let's give a warm FiveOne welcome to Jesse Chang.
All right, so thank you all for having me today. So Pastor Patrick, we'll call you Pastor Patrick. Yeah. So anyways, so when he invited me this morning, he asked me to just kind of talk about the importance of mission, or kind of like why mission. And so I thought, like, since a lot of you don't know me, I thought I would just start like with more of a personal ghost of Halloween past picture for you, just so you can feel like you kind of get to know the younger me. So I know it's hard for you to believe, like probably some of you it's hard to believe like your parents were ever young, but believe me, they were your age at some point in their lives, right? So this is me. So how many of you are in high school? You're in high school? Okay. How many of you are taking advanced placement AP classes? Keep your hands up. Yeah, don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed, okay? So so you can put your hands down. When I think about mission, I thought about, like, you know what? We're all on mission in some sort. There's always some sort of goal or some sort of thing we're trying to achieve, okay? So when I was in high school, my junior and senior years of high school, I took a bunch of APs, okay? I took English AP, I took Spanish AP, I took US history, I took European history, I took calculus, I took biology, and then I took AP portfolio art. Okay, I know you guys think that's not a real AP, but it really was. It really was, and I was able to get AP college credit for taking AP art. So that's 7 APs, okay? Now whose mission was that? My mission? No, that wasn't my mission. That was like my internalized pressure of what my parents wanted, right? That I was supposed to get good grades, I was supposed to excel academically. And so I took 7 APs in my high school so that I could, you know, I guess achieve, right? I was supposed to like get into a good school, which I did, but it was so stressful. It was so stressful. It was so stressful that my mom took me to the doctor one time because I was losing patches of hair, and she was getting worried. She's like, you know, so like right behind here, there's like this big patch of hair that was lost, and so she was getting worried. And then the doctor basically said at the end of the day, he's like, he's just really stressed out. And I was like, oh man, I'm losing hair because I got stressed out because I was taking so much pressure. Taking all of these classes, like trying to get these really good grades, and for what? Because there's a mission. The mission was to graduate and get into a good school and be the pride of like my household. Because my brother, you know, he never finished college. Like he's only like a couple of credits short of college, you know, short of graduating. So I think there's this kind of pressure that I had to kind of do that, right? That was my mission as the second son to accomplish what my older brother, you know, usually the firstborns are usually like the ones who are really like academics, right? And it's not that my brother wasn't smart, but it's just like, you know, he just wasn't into the whole school thing and didn't feel like he had to do all this stuff. So that was my parents' mission, okay? But when I was in high school, the heart mission that I had, so I had this kind of like head mission that my parents wanted. But you know what I really wanted to have when I was in high school? My heart mission, since I was 14. My goal when I was 14 was I wanted to get a girlfriend. Okay. That was what I really wanted. All the great stuff, yeah, like whatever, that's my parents' thing, right? But what I really wanted was a girlfriend. And like I remember very distinctly having a conversation about it, because I went to a mostly all-white school, except for me and my sister and a few other Asian kids, okay, on the East Coast. Not a lot of Asians, okay? So my prospects were already kind of narrow because, you know, just kind of like, so there was I remember having this conversation, and I was at a youth group, and back then, like, you know, I don't know if this is still true, but like all my friends were dating. Okay, even my youth group friends were dating. So of course you just feel that pressure, right? Like everyone else is dating, and I'm like not dating. So of course I wanted to be dating. So when I was 14, I remember having a conversation with my parents, a very serious conversation. I was like, hey, I was like, I really, you know, and it takes me a lot to be able to tell my parents like what I wanted. And I said, I really want to go out like and date people. And so my parents had a little conference, and then they got back to me and said, we will let you date when you are, because remember, I'm 14. How many of you are 14 right now? Okay. Now think about like what you're thinking about in terms of time. 14, and then they said, we'll let you date when you're 16. Oh, that's 2 years. And that's what, like, my brain just exploded. I was like, man, it's like they don't want me to date. Because I have to wait 2 years. It's like 2 years is so long for somebody who's, you know, in high school, right? Or junior high. 2 years sounds like forever. And so I just remember like feeling like that was the worst day of my life, right? Like, you know, as a high schooler. So the worst day of my life. Because that was what was in my heart. I really wanted to have a girlfriend. So when I go back to this whole question of like, why mission? Because we're all on some sort of mission, okay? Whether it's a mission from somebody else, like from parents or from teachers or whatever, or whether it's there's something that's really in your heart that you're just saying like, yeah, I really want to do this. I really want to see this happen. Some of you, it might just be as simple as like, hey, I just want to survive junior high. You know, like I just want to get out. I just want to get out because it's like the worst experience. Or maybe it's like, you know, it could be really basic too. Like I want to like, you know, get to the next level on like this video game or something like that. My kids are into Fortnite right now, so they're just trying to like level up and like get the really cool guns and all that stuff. So I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever. But you know, so there's, you know, that's my son too. He's just like very simple. Like I have simple goals in life. It's not thinking about all these big goals, just like the next level in the video game, you know. But so we're all on some sort of mission, right? There's all sorts of mission. And so when we get back to the question of why mission, why are we watching these like videos about missionaries in other countries that you're supporting as a church? It's because God is on mission. God is on mission, and he's been on mission since the very beginning, since when we as humanity fallen away, have sinned, have rejected God. But God has been on a mission to see salvation and restoration come between God and ourselves, between ourselves with each other and with ourselves and with creation. And so if we look at scripture, you'll see like there's a thread of God being on mission throughout scripture. And so we can go right back to the beginning, like from Genesis, when God calls Abraham, what does he say to him? He says, I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make you a great nation so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. And the one who curses you, I will curse. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. I was at this, you know, our church did this retreat every year. We go to UCSD, and so all the staff, like I was on staff at the time, all the staff were like giving out doing workshops. So I did a workshop on a Bible survey. So we were just talking about a passage like this, and then we're just looking at the whole like Old Testament, New Testament, trying to look at like some of the big themes like from each of the sections. And at the very end, there was a college student who was the son of one of the staff members, and he was kind of like not really into church or anything like that. He raised his hand at the end. He says, doesn't it seem kind of weird? Like, it just seems unfair that God would choose, you know, Abraham, that God would choose the people of Israel. Like, it's kind of like saying basically, like, why does God show favorites? If he loves everybody, why does he choose, you know, one people? The Israelites, you know, Abraham and his children, his children's children. Why would God just pick a select group Because that doesn't seem very loving, right? It doesn't seem like something that a loving God would do if he really loves everybody. And I think this is probably like a Holy Spirit moment for me, because like usually it takes me like a couple of days to have a good response. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. Like, someone says something to you, and then like 3 days later, like, oh man, I could have told him that. But at that moment, I was able to refer back to this passage and said, the goal is not for Abraham and Israel and the people of God to just be blessed, but that they would become a blessing. That the goal that God called Abraham and his people and his progeny that came afterwards is not to just hold on to the blessing, but that their goal is also to be a blessing to others. Okay, so it's not just like this selfish, like, oh, okay, you're special, everyone else is not special. It's like, no, you're special so that you can share that blessing. You've been blessed so that you can share that blessing to others. And that theme continues, like in the Psalms. This is kind of one of the great Psalms. It talks about, may God be gracious to us and bless us and make his face to shine upon us. Like, it's easy to say, like, yeah, God bless me. But why? So that your ways may be known upon earth, your saving power among all the nations. So again, that idea of like, we are blessed to be a blessing. And then finally, we know that God is omniscient because he sent Jesus Christ. He sent God incarnate, like God in flesh, to come to us and show us the way to salvation. And then, this is, we talk a lot about the Great Commission, Matthew 28, but there's a commission right here too, at the end of the Gospel of John, where Jesus says, peace be with you. So this is at the end, this is like when he's resurrected, he's shown Thomas, like, all of his wounds, that this is really him. And then Jesus says to his disciples, saying, peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I send you. As the Father has sent me, so I send you. And we can see like here that, just a little bit earlier in John 15, Jesus talks about, being the vine and the branches. And I want to like just kind of like talk about this little section right here too, because there's something about mission and closeness to God that has to be connected, okay? That intimacy, like when you come here and you're supposed to, oh, I'm here to learn about God, grow my relationship with God. That mission is going to be part of that too, because that was part of what God's heart is, and that there needs to be this intimacy, just like when Jesus talks about being I am the vine, that you are the branches, okay, and my Father is the vine dresser who prunes so that you can able to produce fruit. I actually have a grapevine at my house, and because I'm not pruning it enough, it never produces grapes. It's always like producing flowers, but it never produces grapes. It's so frustrating because I've been like, people are like, why are you growing a grapevine if it doesn't grow grapes? And it's like, exactly. It's like I've been still trying to figure out like, how do I get grapes out of this grapevine? Because I needed because I guess I'm not a good vine dresser. But Jesus is using this analogy to talk about this relationship between him, the Father, and with us. That there's this intimacy, there's this closeness that he wants for us. And so verse 9 says, as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love, remain in his love, be in his love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. There's this connection, right? There's this abiding, there's this intimacy. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. So he's talking about like this abiding, this closeness, this intimacy. There's this sense of joy, right? There's a sense of joy. And then there's this book I've been reading that I think is really great when it talks about joy, as if like when you're seeing somebody that you love, or someone that raises your blood pressure a little bit, like somebody like who you just feel like, yeah, like when they're in the room, I feel special or I feel connected. And this quote says, when we are the sparkle in someone's eyes, their face lights up with a smile when they see us. When was the last time that happened to you? When you saw somebody and they're like, so glad to see you. Hey, yeah, it's like, hey, what's going on? We feel joy from the moment we are born. Joy shapes the chemistry, structure, and growth of our brain. Joy lays the foundation for how well we will handle relationships, emotions, pain, and pleasure throughout our lifetime. Joy creates an identity that is stable and consistent throughout our lifetime. Joy creates an identity that is stable and consistent over time. Joy gives us the freedom to share our hearts with God and others. And expressing our joyful identity creates space for others to belong. Joy gives us the freedom to live without masks because in spite of our weaknesses, we know we are loved. We are not afraid of our vulnerabilities or exposure. Joy gives us the freedom from fear to live from the heart Jesus gave us. And we discover increasing delight in becoming the people God knew we could be. Like what Jesus was saying in John 15, I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. So intimacy and mission, they have to go together. Like when you're growing closer to Jesus, then you're going to also grow with this expansive, like this, we want to share that joy. We want to share that blessing that you receive to others. So mission is something that's very close to how we are feeling connected to God. Okay, I'm going to use a very practical example. This is my wife, Tammy. Okay. And I was just thinking like before times, okay? A long time ago, there were no streaming services. Can you imagine that? Just imagine in your mind, there were no streaming services, there's no Netflix, there was no Paramount or Peacock TV or all these other kind of streaming services, YouTube. A long time ago, there's none of that. The only way we could watch movies was if you got into your car and you drove to a store that had videos, okay? Like, DVDs or VHS. Any of you actually seen those? Or some of you are like, what is that? So when we had, like before we had kids, we'd oftentimes do like a Friday night date, like a movie night type of thing. So we'd drive down to the local Blockbuster down the street. And let's just say, as we get to know each other, we realize we have very different tastes in what kind of movies we want to watch, okay? So she kind of wanted to watch more like the romantic comedy stuff, and I wanted to watch the violent, or sci-fi, action stuff. And so, we'd get into arguments about this because it would be like, I really don't want to watch a romantic comedy, on a Friday night. Oh, so lame. Okay, but because we had grown to love each other, actually, we probably just compromised on this. We said, okay, this week is your turn. And then next week's going to be my turn in terms of picking what. But as just think about it, in any kind of relationship. So I actually did end up getting a girlfriend. So Tammy was one of my girlfriends before I married her. Okay, so God honored my desire, my heart's desire. But if you think about it, if you're in a close relationship, there's going to be this give and take. There's going to be a sense of knowing what that other person likes or dislikes, what their preferences are, just what their motivations are, what their hurts are. There's going to be that intimacy, that closeness that Jesus is talking about that you can have with God, like that, and which he had with his Father. That intimacy is possible. And then when you have that intimacy, you get to know that person, you're going to want to be sharing in the things that they enjoy, even if grudgingly, like for me with romantic comedies, okay? But you do that. Can you imagine if I was like, you know what? I'm going to make all the decisions about what movies we're going to watch on Friday night. That's not that's not intimacy, right? That's just me saying, I'm just going to be, it's all going to be about me and what I want. But instead, it's saying, no, if I'm in this relationship, if I'm in this close relationship, I'm going to be wanting to share in the things that give joy to my wife, right? Things that may not automatically give me joy, but if I'm in this close relationship, I'm going to want to do that, right? And so that's the same thing here with mission. And so when we understand God's heart, you realize you're being invited to join him in God's mission of restoration and salvation. This is the fruit of discipleship. You know, he talks about fruit, right? Like, so that you would have fruit that will last. That when you're close and when you're intimate with God, then you're going to care about what God cares about, right? There's a church planner that I know who she talks about this. She always talks about this phrase about discipleship, like, you know, as we're growing as disciples of Jesus, followers of Jesus, that discipleship without mission is discipleship without Jesus. And that's what she's really pointing out, is that if you're getting to know God, you're going to realize that God is on mission. And that he wants you to join in that mission. Because it's central. You know, it's central to, we saw like through scripture and through this kind of analogy of vines and branches. And so I think one of the things I believe that God cares about, you know, as we get to know his heart, is about showing compassion to others, especially those who are less fortunate. And that's what Catalyst San Gabriel Valley, the group that this church actually supports regularly. This is one of the things that we're really build our whole organization on. It's the basis of helping those youth and families that are disadvantaged or struggling within the school systems, local schools here. And your church has been faithful in partnering with us with this work in the community. And so this past summer, I'm just going to give you one example, one of the families that through your church also helped. There's a mobile home in Rosemead, the city of Rosemead, not too far from here, that there was like a transformer, I think, that exploded, overloaded and exploded. And 4 homes that were mobile homes that were right by there, 2 of them were totally destroyed. Like the impact of that explosion blew up like 2 of the homes and severely damaged the other 2 homes, so that they couldn't actually go back in there. There's nothing they could do. Like you couldn't live in those locations. You kind of see from this news thing just how dramatic that was. And the person that we connected with the school district, because one of the families was in one of the local school districts here, he showed me pictures of like when he went on site to kind of like look at what the damage and try to help some of the families that were where their kids were going to the school. He showed me a picture of like this car that on one side, like, you know, away from the blast and the burning, like it looked like a totally normal car. But then when you just walk over to the other side, you show the pictures, like it was all melted. Like that's how intense the heat and the fire is. And then fortunately, no one died. One of the moms that we ended up helping, like she actually got some burns like on her face and her arms. But fortunately, like nobody died. But here you have like families that don't have a place to go. And so when we connected with the school, we were able to blast it out to all the churches, including CVOC here. And there's such an outpouring of love and generosity from a bunch of churches. And so much so, like, so then, you know, part of what we do is to try to help like support the family as they're trying to find a place to live. And if you know anything about rentals and like finding a home here, it's like super expensive and it's really hard to get into. Okay. So this is in June. It is only this month in October that Mrs. Lopez is able to move in with their family to their new place in Monterey Park. And so this is a picture. Well, this is a picture of her like talking to the news people about the damage. And then 5 months later, this is her like carting some of the stuff that was donated and at her new place. And so like after 5 months, that's a long time, like trying to find a place, they finally were able to find a place. And your church and all these other churches and organizations were able to help them along the way. Because, you know, it's really stressful, right? Like you don't have a place to live and it's really hard. And LA is a really hard place to find, you know, affordable living situations for a family. But praise God, you know, and I think this is one of the ways that we see God like blessing us to be a blessing to others. So if we know God's heart for mission, we join him in his mission. Here's some thoughts about mission. So, and I want to talk about like rhythms, okay? We just saw like a whole video about Cambodia and, you know, I'm sure you're like highlighting different missionaries that you support here at this church, but I always want to kind of get back to like if we're growing closer to Jesus, like if there's any sort of steps of growing closer to Jesus here, and we see that God's mission, his heart is on mission, then we shouldn't just leave it up to like the people who are somehow specially chosen to go on mission, right? Like we shouldn't just think like, okay, church is where we just get together and we just learn and grow closer to God, okay, and closer to each other. Maybe that's a bonus too. Like if we're really going to understand and we're really getting close to Jesus, then there's going to be a sense of like, okay, as the Father has sent Jesus, so Jesus sends us. And so I always, this is one of the things I always think about. It's like, especially for me, when I was growing up in youth group, I don't think we had a good rhythm of just engaging in God's mission on a regular basis as a church, as a youth group, or as a church. It was always like either a special event, like a big, huge special event that we do, that we try to bring people in, or it's like, okay, let's support and pray for the people we've sent out. And I'm saying, no, God, Jesus didn't say that just for the specially selected people. He was saying that to all of us, all of you. All of us are able to be part of God's mission right now. So I just want to kind of like talk about it like in a sense of like rhythms of as being the host and the guest. And I think being a host is the easiest. Like, so I'm part of a church plant right now in Monterey Park. And one of the things we've been doing and we've discovered is that when you meet in the park, when you meet in an open space, and there's people walking by, and there's people who are just kind of like, oh, what's going on over here? And then they're asking us questions. And then if you look on the right-hand side of that picture, we actually had some stuff that we had for the youth and the kids to kind of like little crafts and stuff like that. And what we've discovered is that the last 2 times that we met in the park is that there's other families that are like, oh, what's going on over here? And then they have kids, and so they end up having, they start doing some of the crafts, and we're realizing, oh, maybe this is a missional opportunity for us as a church. Instead of just doing stuff for our own kids, like let's make some more, kits, like craft kits, so that we can engage with the kids and the families that are actually coming in and interacting with them, as the church, and say, hey, you're talking about what we're doing, like, what's going on here, and seeing it as like, when you're out in public like that, like it's unavoidable that you're going to have people from the community walking by and just kind of, but typically like, and even for us, we were just like, just wanting to get in the building and just kind of be safe and secure. But when we've been out in the park, then we realized like all these opportunities, like one of the worship leaders ended up talking to this homeless guy, like for our Easter service, just because he was laying, he was sitting there and we had some time in between before we started service. And so there's been all these really neat interactions that just remind us that we're on mission, that the church is on mission. And sometimes we just need to put ourselves in a place where that can happen very naturally. So that was just like an idea. I thought like, yeah, we're still the host, but there's a sense of like, okay, people are going to be at the park anyways, and they're going to be with their families. Why not try to do this? Like instead of just meeting here, like meeting at the park. One of the other things we did as an organization is we invited a church to host one of our, that's my staff team over there, to host a pizza lunch for the families that we were helping throughout last year. And that was another great kind of event too, because then like the church people were able to kind of talk to the families that they've been supporting, through us. And it was such a great experience because then they were able to just interact and like talk to some of these families and just connect with these families, because these families know that the church has helped them, but sometimes they don't get that chance to really connect, right? Like to really have some sort of like potential for connecting with the relationship. And then the last thing is like, instead of being the host, maybe you should consider being a guest. So one of the things that we've been doing too has been our church plan has been going out and partnering with the Parks and Recreation, which they kind of do these citywide events. And for Halloween they did this thing called the Monster Mash a few weeks ago, where they had a whole bunch of booths, and so we were one of the booths. And you had to do like an activity for the first part, like had a little ping pong toss game, and then you would get candy out the second part, and you go to all the kids would go out to each of the booths and trick or treat that way. So I don't know what you guys think about trick or treating, but like I guess we're okay with it. So the staff there, I talked to them before, and they're like, we're hoping for about 500 kids. Like, hope you guys like spread the word. And we're like, yeah, we spread the word. And so we had like way more than we had at least twice as many kids. So it's like tons of families, tons of kids just coming here, like trying to get, getting all this candy. And it's like so many people, but it was such a great thing. I felt for us as we were going out, like, hey, we're being present. We're being present in the community, and we're not holding on to the blessing, but we want to bless others. So going back, and so this is at night, it's more passing out the candy. That was a little Minecraft spider that you guys didn't spot that. It's a Minecraft spider that I made because I really like making costumes and stuff like that. So that was the way. So we join in God's mission because that's God's heart. Okay, so if we're going to talk about like, I want to grow in my relationship with Jesus, then we have to really think about that. Okay, well, part of what God cares about is mission. And it's something that we're not just waiting for, like, if I'm especially called to go overseas. This is something that we do as part